Hey everybody, Mike from Big Mike's Motor Pool here, and today's project is going to be some quick and easy shipping container shelves. Right here. Alright, so as you noticed, I got a bunch of stuff in here. I'm out of room. I've been out of room for a while, and yeah, there's more than a bunch, I guess. This is packed to the gills. So I built these shelves a couple years ago when I first got this container because all this stuff was going to sit outside otherwise, and there was no way to just slam it in here because I actually did, and I couldn't find any of it. You couldn't even make it 10 feet into this container at one point. So I built these. It's all pretty simple. I set them up. They're not the prettiest thing in the world, so if you want something real nice that you can look at and admire, this ain't the shelf you want to build. These shelves are, the back sections are welded right to the wall, and as you can see here, let's get a good one, there's no special cuts. This is just overlap joints, and things are hanging down lower than they should. It's just mayhem, but these go together very quick, and if you're not going to be looking at them and you don't care, this is a perfect setup, and it's pretty cheap to do. I mean, not cheap nowadays because steel is through the roof, but in an overall scheme of things, for time and material, you're not going to spend much. So anyway, as I mentioned, the backs get welded directly to the wall of the container, and then the front is on top of the cross piece, and the cross piece is on the bottom of the back piece. Pieces welded to the wall are 1/8 2x2. The side supports that go across everything, those are also 2x2 1/8. The front, because it's not welded to the wall, I did 3/16 for the down the section there, and then this upright leg is also 1/8 2x2, and you can see all that is just turned on its side and let the wire fly. The wood, that's 3/4 inch plywood. I just happen to have a bunch of that laying around. I scavenged from somewhere, so that's what I used. You could probably get away with half. I don't know if 3/8 would be enough. Really depends on what you're putting on here, but you can see I got supports running down. I believe we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 per section, and where the uprights go and the wood joint is, I brought these in some, so there's two, one for each side, just so that the wood can have somewhere to sit. And I got some across the back. Up this side, I stopped here because I think I'm putting a door here, maybe, at some point. But anyway, I did 3 of them. These are spaced 24 inches apart, full of Toyota parts and Army truck parts and just parts and more parts and just crap I should have thrown out. But I'm a hoarder, I guess you could say. So we wanted to have somewhere to put all my stuff to cherish for another 20 years that I've never used it. So anyway, the design is pretty simple. It's a little bit more than 2 feet because you got an 1/8 inch here and there's 3/16 here. Plus, with the radius, you're not going to get them tight. See the gap there? So you're going to wind up wider than 2 feet, but it doesn't matter because you got 2 inches on each side going inwards that you can drop your plywood to where it doesn't have to really worry about making it all the way back. And you could shorten these up and make them exactly 2 feet if you wanted to. You can get real fancy and do some stuff with the angled iron to make it mate together, but that's not the point of this. It's just to get them up and get them done and then forget they're there. So the wood's not even screwed down, it's just laying on there. It's really easy to put in because you put it in sideways on a diagonal going like this, and then you just let it drop. You don't even have to worry about cutting any of it because the outright legs are just outside. It's all square. No freaking cutouts for leg holes or pockets or whatever. So that's that. Let's go take a look at the material. So I got my 2x2 cross pieces cut. These again, like I said, are 1/8. They're cut 24 inches each. And then we got, here's the 3/16. Vin's over there talking to me. He wants to come over and hang out. We'll let him over in a minute. But the steel supply shorted me on one of these. I got to go back and get another one. I should have 3, but I only have 2. And these are 20-foot lengths, so that's going to be one whole section of shelves that we're doing. Again, minimal cutting is what we're going for. These pieces here are the back wall attaching parts. You can see there's 1, 2, and then a third one over here. I got holes drilled in them. Now, these holes aren't anywhere particular. They're no particular size, just big enough so that the screw head doesn't go through it, but the screw will. So that's the material we got for that, and then here's the legs. These are 78 inches, 2 by 2, 1/8. First step we got to do here, as you can see, I jammed a piece of scrap angle iron on top. We're going to tack this to the wall. It's going to come off later, so don't do anything crazy. And then we're going to use this as a clamp point to put our first piece of angle. We're going to clamp it up, and we're going to support it with some wood temporarily, just so we can get it down here. We're going to mark the wall, which just would have been a lot easier with a chalk line, but I can't find it. I don't know where the heck I put the thing, so we're using the piece of steel to make a quick mark. We got to mark the steel top and bottom in a few spots because we're going to weld it right to the wall. We got to clean the wall because this paint here, even though it's just paint, you can see it is rusting through at some spots. It's pretty hefty stuff. It's made to resist seawater, so corrosion resistant, and it's pretty thick when you go to grind it off. Kind of smears a little bit, but if you haven't done a project this big with a welder, especially in something made of all steel, one great thing is you can ground anywhere. These little tie down points, you scratch them off with the grinder, they make really great grounds, so you don't have to worry about always being right up inside your workspace. So we're going to put this piece in. Now this shelf, I forgot to mention, is about 16 feet long. We're going to join directly to it, which is going to put us about 20 feet, which would leave 4 feet from the door, which will be nice in case I got to shove a pallet in here just to keep out of the rain for something. But yeah, so we're going to start up and get this in place. First thing we're going to do is tack this guy in. You might remember I mentioned we had to put some holes in for a screw. Well, that's what it's for. Like I said, there's no specific spot that's going to be. Just get it in there to where the thing sits level and screws tight to the bottom. We're supported at the back, and we're supported down at the other end. But you want to try and support the center. Look how much difference this thing, it's just sagged out. Just put one in the center as well. This is going to want to fall off the wall somewhat, so you want to just be careful. Alright, so now we got our piece sitting up. It's a little dark in here, I apologize, but it's a shipping container. What are you going to do? So now we're going to mark it, and then we're going to take it down, and we're going to grind it. One thing to note, if you've never ground anything inside of a container before, especially the container itself, it gets freaking loud. This place is just like an amplifier for sound, so you definitely want to wear hearing protection. These marks are nothing special. You just need some kind of reference to have for grinding. We're going to go above them and below them, so don't worry about making them perfect. Just get them on the wall. Perfect either. If you squeeze a little bit of paint, it ain't gonna matter. You're just trying to get an arc is what you're trying to do. And you don't have to do every single one, but it probably is a good idea because you don't know where these things are gonna land. Because this wall, I'll tell you right now, is not straight. These things get beat up in service and they're all freaking sort of out of whack. Alright, so I got the walls ground. Like I said, nothing perfect. You just got to be able to get some contact. And I got the second piece of wood in place, clamped down the end. And before you go and just hammer this out with the welder, you do want to check your level because now you can adjust if you like. I like to check it in the middle in case there's any little bit of sag as opposed to right on top of the wood. I did it on both sides. I'm lucky to have my containers sitting on concrete slabs that I had poured just for these. So I'm pretty much dead level. But I do want to show you why I ground every single one of those and what we're going to do about it. So you look down here, holding this against the wall with my leg right here. So we're flush on that one, but oop, got space there and there, all the way down, except till you get to right there. There's no spaces for a little bit, but then the space comes back. So as I mentioned, these things, they take a beating when they're in service, and don't let this get to you. This is just part of it. Unless you get a brand new container, you're gonna have this problem, and it's not really worth trying to fix, because you could get in here, you could hit this with a hammer all you want, you can get out there with weld something to the wall with a machine and try to pull it, but it's more work. And the way the shelves I designed here go, you can just burn this thing to the wall, let it be squiggly the whole way down, and then you can just shorten the centers a little bit. You know, just stick them in the chop saw and chop a little bit, because you got 2 inches of space to make your weld. So it doesn't even have to be tight. The best way to get this thing stuck to the wall is going to be with a block of wood and a big bar. And let me demonstrate how we're going to do that. Alright, so as I mentioned, we got some space. So here's how we're going to fix this. Now you got these tie down points right here. They're, what are they, every 2 feet maybe? No, they're 3 feet, I don't know, something like that. They're spaced equivalently. And the spacing is more than enough to use as a spot to be able to connect your shelves. Now while these things are not dead smack in where your shelf is, it definitely is close enough to get you tight. So you can get in here with a pry bar and use this piece of wood, and you can force it up to the thing and hold it and just run a tack in. And it's a little tricky to do with just one in the middle like I did. But you start at one end and work down, you'll find it gets a little bit easier. It's still going to be hard, but it is what it is. So let's get to it. So here's a nice little trick. You get the hook up there, you can put a strap in it, and this is going to help you tremendously here, because they like to fall over, which, you know, it is what it is, but you got something sturdy to keep it from falling over while you're getting set up. So we got the bottom one on and welded all the way down. I don't weld every single one. Not even every other one, sometimes every 2 or 3. And some of these you're going to have a big gap. So you're going to get really used to filling gaps in with the welder. or you could just put scraps in. It's just quicker for me to fill gaps than have to go and cut more pieces. And I don't weld the bottoms fully. You probably don't even have to weld the bottom. On the ones that were close to the wall, like really tight, I did like a 1-inch tack on the bottom of each one. The ones with a giant gap, I tried, but welding overhead sucks, and trying to fill a gap overhead sucks even more, so I didn't worry too much about it. So let's get started on hanging the second one. I got the second one up. Supervisor showed up to tell me what to do. A little useless guy. That's what they always do. Yeah, you wearing safety glasses? Good boy. Yeah, so the second one, just like the first one. And the third one I won't really show you. We'll just come back to this when we get to start putting the side supports in and the front pieces. But we're coming along. Quick and easy. One thing to note, when I did these welds, I did them all in the same ones because the bend is bent and it's probably going to travel upwards and downwards. The one problem you'll have now is you can't use your tie downs for crowbar points, but I would just put the crowbar in there to push there, and it works good. You don't want to go and do it, say, oh, I don't know, right here between, you know, where there's no welds between two of them, just because this is you know, thin material and you're going to bend it. Just keep that in mind. Top's going to be tricky because you're going to have this this height trying to hold that big bar up, which you'll be able to use the top tie downs for pry points, which is pretty cool, you know, but it's still going to be a little bit tricky working overhead. But this, I will tell you, is honestly the worst part of this job, is hanging these wall supports. Once you get through these, the rest is pretty easy. And don't worry too much if things don't quite work out the way you want. Like, this one particular piece has been so bad, I can't even get these to touch. I'm not even going to try either. You know, they're just going to have to hang. And you can see the bottom one is much closer than the top one. And this could be because, you know, if you look, it's kind of bowed down the thing here, but, you know, the wall is the wall, and you're not going to do anything better with it. You could, but it would be either too expensive or too time consuming, or a big waste of time. So don't fret it. I'll hang the third one and we'll get started on making actual shelves. Alright, so I got all three of these back supports welded to the wall. Pretty happy with that. And what I got going on here is a little mock-up of the side supports. The reason I'm doing this is because with the walls as wavy as they are in these things from damage, you may go to put your first pieces in and they could be severely off from where you're starting at. For instance, the shelf in the back, that one is currently at about 24.5 from the wall to the outside here. And this one, when I put this together real quick as a mock-up, I'm about 24.25. Now that doesn't mean much in a situation like this. You could probably let it fly, but you may want your fronts to not be so wavy. So I'm going to trim this one down some, so that we can get our 24.5 for our width. And it's going to change. Like this one here is about 1/4 inch more off the wall than this one. And who knows which way the wall's kicked in or out, or if these are straight, and so forth up top. So this is something you may want to do when you're starting your setup for the first run, because you know, you set this end and then the other end's already preset, because it's, well, at least in my situation, it's already against the it's going to go right against the shelf and continue. But You know, down here it could be wide open and wavy, and you may not want it, so you may just, you know, want to do this. But yeah, this is something I'll be doing with all three, just to clamp the piece of scrap to this to get a general idea of the same setup. And yeah, quick measurement, and trim this one down, and I'm going to go and I'll hang the front, support it like I did these, and then we'll get a measurement in the middle and set the middle one, and then we should be good to go to run all of them. So yeah, just might have to trim some things up, but not that big of a deal. Or you can just whack it together and run with what's there. You know, you're not too worried about it looking pretty. The whole setup isn't pretty, but there's some details I do like to keep and have nice. So this is what we got. So I'm going to finish up here, trim this guy down and get some more measurements, and I'll start running this bottom. And yeah, once we get this set up and started, then we'll put an upright in place and then another upright, and so forth. So I'm going to get back to it. Alright, so we got this piece in place. You can see all the way down there to where it starts to get dark. She's up. One thing to note about these, if you don't measure your sticks before you put them in place, you may have discrepancies. This is square with that intact in place. We got about 3/4 of an inch extra on our 3/16 angle, which I'll probably chop that off with a grinder later. I'm not too worried about it at the moment. Just want to get these up. But if you really want them all to match, you should measure them. I didn't measure any of these because they're about 20 feet, and the 1/8 was 20 3/4, I think, when I checked them on the wall. So this is probably a little bit longer, or the shelf is at a square down the other end. But either way, we're going to make it work. So I got this end supported with a piece of wood. We're going to check the level, the center supported, and if everything looks good, I'll get some tacks going. We'll start stringing these things out, which should be very, very easy. I am going to try and get the center of I'm going to do 8 feet and then an upright. So this end, there'll be 3. This isn't going to get divided in half. There'll be three uprights down the length of this. So if it looks funny when I'm putting the cross pieces in, that's why. Supposed to be in here, right? Alrighty, so we got the bottom shelf all framed up. Only thing left for this is plywood, but I'll put the plywood on at the end of the whole construction. You may have seen me using this piece of plywood here every time I was welding one of these. There's no point to that. That was something just for me. My little buddy Vin was in here, and he, you know, tell a 2-year-old not to look at an arc flash. It ain't going to work too well. So I was using that as a shield so that he didn't get flashed. But yeah, there we go. All done. So now to do the next one, which was just the same as this, you know, just repetition. So I'll get that in here, set it up, and do that one. I won't show you that because it's ain't no different than this. Top one will be the same way, so I'll bring you back when we're all framed up. It's should go pretty quickly. This project, you could probably do this in one day if you get all your stuff cut up and ready and cleaned out, and you get up before, you know, get out of here before 10:30. But I'm a late bloomer in the morning sometimes. Yep, time to hit the second one. All right, so here's the finished product. Hey, look at that. 60 feet of shelves added to the mix. Yeah, buddy. This is the stuff dreams were made of. I even patched in the hole here where we had a shortage on the plywood. Plywood was recycled. At my old place, this was on the walls, and that place wasn't really mine. It wasn't owned by me, so neither was the building. And when I put it on, I told them when I was leaving, you ain't keeping my wood. So I took it down. Some of it though got cut down less than 8 feet, and here's another one where of course I didn't measure none of this. I forgot that I had cut them down, so I started cutting up pieces that weren't 8 feet, and I ended up with some gaps. But you know, there's enough support in this 3/4 inch plywood, and with the way I made these, that it doesn't really matter if I put a small piece in. Plus, it's, you know, most probably stuff's going to span it that's any heavier than it should be. I also went ahead and hooked up some stuff on the wall here and on the door to hang up some equipment. Collection of various shovels and yard equipment, and this thing has always been a gigantic pain to deal with, and it's because of this stupid freaking hose that just kind of lays around like an elephant trunk. It's always in the way. You can't store it anywhere good, so I made this hook, and I figured since I don't use this stuff all the time, if I got to get in there, I can just take this down, or, you know, opening the door will just alleviate any problems there. So I put a lot of still yard stuff on here I'm not going to touch too often. And then over here I made some hooks. I got my pole saw finally up and off the ground. This thing I was standing up, which it almost touched, well, actually it did touch the top. You couldn't stand it up straight, it had to be at an angle. But the problem was this end down here where the bar oil is, wherever you stood this up, there was a puddle underneath of it. The bar oil would leak out, well, I guess when it got hot enough or whatever. So at least now with it sitting up straight, hopefully the leak stops. If not, oh well, it is what it is. I also put some hooks in here for the helmets, and 3 extra ones for the kids when they get old enough to wear a helmet. And I'm probably going to do more stuff along this wall here as far as hooks and hanging stuff and whatever. We just got to get through some things and figure out what's going to go where. May even add more shelves in here. The original plan was on this wall there was to be a dead center door that was going to slide, because this is one of 2 containers that it's going to get covered up in the center and become a workshop, and I wanted a central door so I could come in and out of here and look for stuff. So I guess right where that hook is, it's not spaced like the rest of them, is the center. And I was going to run some more shelves, another 8 feet or so off of this end down to where the door would be starting, and then figured I'd leave this end of it here open. That way I can drive a forklift in here, put something in if I need to. So once we get further into this and get some organization going, I'll probably end up doing more shelves and maybe the door. But that project is going to be happening after I put together that steel building sitting back there behind my crusty OBS Ford. We got steel all over the place over here. Steel roofing over there, and a stack of roofs on top of a deuce frame. It's a big building. There's just stuff everywhere. And some of this stuff in here is going to go in that building because it's, well, like this thing on the cart. Those are trays that hold bins that we put out at the shows. sell military truck parts out of. It makes it easy to quickly set up. All the parts get loaded in those, and then they're all numbered and tagged and priced, and it just gets set out on sawhorses, the whole lot of it. Roll it right in the trailer and be done with it. But anyway, yeah, we all finished up here. So I hope you enjoyed checking out my design. You know, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's strong and it will definitely do the job, and you can get it done quickly. You know, you could maybe go out and buy shelves. You can go buy pallet rack, but either way, it's, I don't know, this is more perfect than that for me. Because pallet rack, I'd have to find pallet rack, and I'd spend more on pallet rack than I got in this whole project, I'd imagine. The only bad part is it's specialized because you gotta weld everything. But if you're a welder guy like myself and you got some tools, not hard at all. In fact, if I had all the material, instead of getting shorted on this top piece from the steel supply originally, I could have did this in one whole 8-hour day. This would have been done. Even the wood would have been done and cut up. So, but anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you have fun building your shelves if you decide to try it.